some people may feel that you're contributing to the problem by you're making a business out of rental properties and, pushing the rents up in that case, especially if you're like renovating the property. What would you say to that?
When I am the secondary landlord, this is definitely true. So that is why I'm trying to do more management, not subleasing. When my lease with the landlord is up, they will definitely raise the rents. Yeah, I'm forced to raise the rent again, which is, I don't think it's a sustainable business plan.
Welcome to the Connected podcast, coming to you from the heart of Taipei, where we get personal on issues and news that connects us in Taiwan and around the world. We're your hosts, Izzy Wells
and Fred Shea.
And today we're going to be getting into a topic that really does affect us all, especially young people: housing and the rental market. We're going to be looking at Taiwan, but hopefully no matter where you're listening from, there'll be something that you can resonate with or at least find interesting.
And to help us dive into the property sector in Taiwan, we're joined by Robyn Huang, who's the CEO and founder of Zuyou, a property management platform here in Taiwan, who's had over 10 years of experience in this sector. So welcome to Connected, Robyn. Can I first start with how Zuyou started? And can you tell me why you wanted to work in property management?
Of course. Hi, everybody. My name is Robyn. I'm the founder and CEO of Zuyou. And before that, I founded my company around like 2015, which right after I graduated. So actually, I started the business idea in my college days. And at the time, I was just like a business administration student. So I take a class and they tell us to look for a project or like an idea for a startup. And at the time, I believe it's also true right now, is that my college, which is NCCU, houses or like holds the second most foreign students in Taiwan.
I've definitely met a lot of foreign students from there.
At the time, like I think this is my opportunity. I'm looking for opportunities inside like foreign students. Like what problems do they face when they come to Taiwan? The first thing it pops up is housing. They have to look for a house even before they come to Taiwan.
Yes, I can relate heavily.
Yes. So I started to look for houses for them. And like it's pretty simple. It's just like a broker agent. As a student, I try to look around school, like, and is there any houses, any landlords that accepts foreign students? And then I dive slightly deeper into it. Foreign students have some special needs for housing. They have shorter terms, periods of leasing. Of course, they don't speak Chinese, so the contracts, the communications with the landlords is also all very difficult for them. So when I finally found a few places for them, the landlord told me at the time that they don't want to be their landlord because they cannot communicate. So other than being their landlord, the landlord want to sublease to me.
They need an in-between person.
Yes. So the landlord lease the house to me, and then I sublease it to the foreign students. So I became what they call secondary landlord in Taiwan. This is not a profession in Taiwan at the time. But then I started the whole business from being a subleasing landlord to foreign students. But also like at around the time period, Airbnb is booming around the world. So as a young students who want to build a startup, I have a dream of being a big software company like Google, Airbnb, Uber, things like that. So I hired a few software engineers with a few 贷款. What is 贷款?
Oh, loan.
Loan. So I borrowed loan from like friends and families, but then trying to make a platform. But then as naive as I am, I did not know how much money it will be costing to make a platform to be able to do something like Airbnb. So it quickly burned out. So, but we still have a very basic platform website at the time. So it can do pretty simple things like signing a contract and looking for houses for foreign students, which is very new concept at the time because you can't really do online contract signing. So quickly I pivoted from platform business to real estate management business. So I'm trying to lease more houses, lease more real estates, and then sublease it to foreign students or even Taiwanese students, and then steadily grow bigger and trying to do more housing management until now.
I'm curious, when you were still in NCCU, how many property did you manage?
Around 5.
5. Okay. So it wasn't like a great...
Of course. Like I'm a student.
And so for housing, because that is the topic that we're focusing on today, what was it that made you want to go, of all the things that you wanted to do? I mean, you said there that you were wanting to help like foreign friends and stuff, but was it anything about seeing how crazy the prices for rent are in Taiwan or in Taipei especially? Did you think, oh, I can make a lot of money here?
Of course not. But well, at the time, like the rent is not high. Of course, as a startup, I need to look for like business ideas. I need to make money. So where the money came from is mostly because for foreign students, they are willing to pay a premium because their rent, the period is shorter. They're just coming here to be like 1 semester or even less than a semester for fun, for adventures other than not actual studying. So their budget is higher. Yeah,
especially if there's a lot of American students and comparatively rent here is a lot cheaper than the US. So I know I had friends who were comparing it to the US and they were like, yeah, I can spend this money because it's way cheaper than rent in New York or whatever. But I also think people take slight advantage of that because they know that they're willing to pay more.
Yes, so this is what we call like misinformation.
There's a gap.
Yeah, information gap. Yes. So like you can say we make money from the information gap. So of course, like they are willing to pay the premium because they don't want to deal with all the hassle.
Yeah. So were you dealing with a lot of people that were actually not in the country and they were preparing to move to Taiwan?
Yes, but like this can only grow the business to a limit because like comparing to the actual residential renting housing market, like the foreign market is like very, very little. So if I want to expand bigger, then I have to move to residential.
Otherwise, it is a bit of a niche area.
Yes.
For sure. But rents, I mean, you said it wasn't as expensive previously, maybe 10 years ago, but it is becoming increasingly more unaffordable.
Yes.
Some renters in Taipei are now spending over half their income on single room apartments. And government data shows that rent prices hit a record high in February, rising faster than in much of Europe.
Yes.
But having said that, Taiwan's inflation rate, although it's rising, it's still considered pretty moderate compared to other countries. But you do feel things getting more expensive.
Yes.
Now, we spoke to a research fellow at the Institute of Economics at Academia Sinica, Wen Taishu, and he told us one of the reasons why. So we're just going to take a listen.
Pretty much all the rental markets of housing in Taiwan is black market because landlords do not report their rental income. They will try to avoid tax. In fact, evade tax. So this evasion of the tax is a serious issue, but government does not dare to deal with this issue. And all the rental lease between the landlords and the tenants, they are not reported to the government. So the government do not have data. So government just rely on a very small sample of the so-called social housing that where they have the data. But that data is very distorted. It's not representative. So so there are studies in Taiwan that shows that government actually seriously underestimate the rental component of the CPI. So in fact, our inflation should be much higher than what the government is saying.
So Robyn, I'm curious to know, what do you make of that, what Wen Tai had to say?
I think most Taiwanese know that it's a fact, especially for us who was trying to like build a company or something like that. Like this is not news. We all know it's a black market for rentals. That's why like the government is trying to regulate it from like 2018, the Residential Tenancy Act, is it?
Yeah.
So like after 2018, the act happened. Like we can tell that the government is trying to educate the market, educate the landlord, educate tenant that these whole things should be regulated. People should like pay the taxes, things like that. But because like before it's black marketed, so for people to pay taxes, the rent, like they will want to raise the rent to pay for the new taxes, the new payments they need to pay.
So, but did that act actually hold people accountable? Did it change anything?
I believe they do gradually. It's not
Okay.
like a huge jump, but I will say probably like from 1% to 5%, and probably increasing and actually it's quite as the speed is accelerating. At least what I know is that from 2023 to 2024, the market of this whole residential renting is like 100% growth in the market. So if the speed is as fast as last year, then I will say probably in 5 to 10 years, the whole market will be very, very like close to Japan. And Japan is what we know as very 成熟, like a very mature market of residential renting.
By your estimation, how much of the rental property in Taiwan is actually considered black market?
I will say 90%.
90%. So 90% of all rental properties are still considered black market.
Well, residential only though. Like commercials is probably 100%.
But I was really shocked when like I found this was a thing, because like how everyone knows it's an issue. Why is no one doing anything about it? And the reason I had found out about it was because someone I was living with wanted to claim the government subsidies, which we're going to get onto later. But the landlord was really funny about that and was kind of trying to stop it from happening, because she said that this isn't registered. And she said that she couldn't change it because it was, gave a load of reasons. But I was just like, it kind of infuriated me slightly. I was like, you're already making a lot of money. And you're trying to stop people from getting, their little bit of subsidy, when like young people as well. It did make me a little angry. And I was like, I want to can someone solve this issue?
So like if I break it down, is people are more intuitive or more leaning into not losing thing than gaining thing. And so losing money, the concept of losing money is a lot bigger than making money for the landlords. So there's a very huge fight back for landlords to be paying out stuff that they don't need to pay before. And there are a lot of landlords in Taiwan, because I believe Taiwan has probably the highest, or at least in the worldwide, it's probably like inside 10, probably top 5, top 10 of house ownerships for people, residents.
And what are the demographics like for landlords that you manage? Kind of the age group of these landlords?
Well, we only manage a small fraction. We only have around 300 landlords. So I don't think this is...
It's not a good sample size.
Yeah, it's not a good sample size.
Do they have to claim their tax? Like, can they be doing this?
Most of our landlords do.
Okay.
But our landlords,
hold them accountable.
Yes, demographic-wise, they're more young. Our landlords are more young because we do our own YouTube. So most landlords found us by our YouTube.
Okay.
And people who watch YouTube is probably more younger.
Okay. But is it usually property that's maybe been in the family as opposed to...
And some young people, they are able to afford new houses, so they move out and their old house needs to rent out or be remodeled.
And so you're managing these properties and
Yes.
acting kind of like the middleman. And I assume you're the ones also advising on what you set the rent price at.
Yes.
Do you adjust for inflation?
Well, not really according to inflation, but according to the market. And by the market mostly means by 591, if I believe most people know what 591 is. So and of course there's also what is that called? 实价登录 from the government.
You have to register the property price.
Yes. And there's a platform from the government, like when you rent out, or this is more done in the housing market, like not rental, but the housing prices. When you sell houses, you have to register the price on the platform by the government. And they are also doing this in the rental market right now. It's like being more...
transparent?
Yeah, it's being more transparent. So we of course also look into that and on 591 and trying to give the landlord the most market-wide correct rent price. So it's not by inflation.
Oh, okay. So 公告限制 is GV.
Yeah.
and 实价登录 is what the property is actually sold for.
And normally it's very, very different. So that's also why in Taiwan mostly, I'm not sure in the other countries, but in Taiwan, like government tax houses from GV, which is a lot lower than actual market price. So the landlord is actually paying like very little tax like comparing to how expensive the house is.
And when we're talking about the how unaffordable rent and housing is getting, well, I'm interested for your tenants. Are a lot of like young people, young tenants, are they having to move further and further outside of Taipei? Is that quite a common issue that you're coming across?
I will say it is not. Because if you rent, you will want to rent nearer to like the place you live, the place you work. And most people, what I observed is that they are willing to give up like space, or even like they are willing to live in higher floors.
With no lift and like the sixth floor.
Yes. Because it's like the area of living or the
convenience.
The convenience is more important than the actual place.
Since you manage like over 300
in Taipei, we manage around 600 units.
600 units. How many in total in Taiwan?
Around 1,000.
And are there any like horror stories?
A lot. Like,
can you share some?
Well, like horror stories are normally pretty common. So like we did face like a flooding situation, a burning down situation.
But other than that, are there any like tricky landlords?
Sorry, burning down.
Well, since this is an English podcast, I can share the one with the flooding issue, because that is actually caused by a foreign student.
Oh, okay.
Which is not a very good. Face-wise, it's not very
not a good example.
Yeah.
It's okay. Let's hear it.
So, well, she like at the time it's like probably 7 years ago or 8 years ago. Like at the time, she's living in one of the share houses in one of the rooms, and I guess she came home late at night and pretty drunk and trying to take a shower.
Classic. Yep.
And like she fell down, probably tripped in shower, and then broke the pipes.
Oh. Wow, like, that's impressive.
In some old houses in Taiwan, they have like, I don't know how it's like called, but then pipes outside. It's not like inside a wall. It's like more outside. So you can break it with force. And she somehow broke it, and the sewer system is probably just clogged at the time. Also, everything happened all at once, and the whole house has got flooded. And,
oh no! What floor was it?
It's on the 4th floor. And it flooded.
And it's a sewer pipe?
Yes. So like it flooded the whole whole floor, and then also goes downstairs.
Oh no.
So we have the whole what the compensation fee is around like 300,000 Taiwanese dollars at the time. And
you had to pay
like 300 to 400 for compensation for the landlord and for the neighbors downstairs and things like that.
But what, like, I imagine that was the middle of the night.
Yes.
So did you get a phone call, or how did you resolve the
I get a phone
issue?
call, but when I get a phone call, it's probably too late.
Oh.
And fortunately, there's a manager of the building. It's more like superintendent, and he managed to close the pipes, the water pipe, but and it's still a big hassle.
So that's
and then because since she's a foreign student, and like of course we have a deposit, but she's only like for renting a room, so it's not much. And then she just like, okay, so I don't want my deposit back. I'm going home next week, and then flew back to her country.
And you were left to deal with the mess.
Yes.
So if we bring the conversation back to property rentals, since you manage...
No, I want another story.
What kind of story? Oh, okay, so can you tell me a story about tricky landlords?
Yeah, I was going to say, we've heard about a tenant who's been a bit of a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
What about a landlord, or like trying to deal with that in between? Like I've had a couple of not nightmare landlords, but like difficult to deal with, who aren't the most accommodating.
So for landlords, there's a like backstory from our business angle. We deal with two different landlords, from business standpoint. One is that we lease the house and sublease it out. So we are not the middleman. We are the landlord to the subleasing tenants, subtenants, if you will. And this kind of situation, like sometimes the house will deteriorate and things will be broken down, and we will have to argue a lot with the actual landlord to not lose too much money. But there's also another kind of landlord is that we are the middleman. We simply manage the house. So we only make the manage fee. We don't sublease because the tenant's landlord is the actual tenant. That's what landlord. So as the middleman, we have more, I will say more power or to influence the landlord to make the right decision. So we have two different obligations. And so for the first one, when we are the sub or the secondary landlord, it's always a big issue when we want to try to ask the landlord to pay up what we believe it's his or her obligation for the house because they don't want to.
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine it sounds like my previous landlord.
Yes,
but back to the, issue of the rent for young people, especially, it being really unaffordable. Some people may feel that you're contributing to the problem by you're making a business out of rental properties and, pushing the rents up in that case, especially if you're like renovating the property. What would you say to that?
I will say this is true. True when I am subleasing. When I am the secondary landlord, this is definitely true. So that is why I'm trying to do more management, not subleasing. Because when I am the secondary landlord, my intention is to rent as high as possible to have enough margin to make money to cover out when the house deteriorates and the actual landlord is not going to pay up.
What made you pivot? Your morals started getting to
This is, of course, one of the reasons. But the main reason is that when I set the rent too high, like, of course, my rental rate, like renting out rate, is going to get lower. It will be pretty difficult for me to make money if I want to compile all the rent up there. And then when I'm the secondary landlord, when my lease with the landlord is up, they will definitely raise the rents. And then my margin will be like thinner at the time. And I am 强迫, what is that?
Force.
Yeah, I'm forced to raise the rent again, which is, I don't think it's a sustainable business plan. So that's why I'm trying to pivot out from the situation.
So when we talk about property, home ownership in Taiwan is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Every parent expect their kids to own a home at some point in their lives. So we have a bite from Wen Tai-Xu at the Academia Sinica, and he has some really interesting advice he wants to tell us about investment in property.
So if you want to do anything about housing ownership, okay, do it now. Okay, if you want to do anything about the stock market, you can always do. Okay, so that part is fine. But I'm saying that it's really getting riskier. So if you want to do any kind of saving, still again, not put everything into housing. That's very dangerous. If you want to do it now. And if you see housing price going up too crazy because of the currency appreciation, then you start to have to think. You start to have to worry about sort of a bubble burst.
So yeah, on that, do you think it's wise to buy property as an investment in Taiwan?
My opinion will be slightly different from his. Like, I don't think the bubble will burst, but I am against buying properties as an investment because there's like too much better options out there. The reason is that liquidity is king. I believe that's what I believe. Like liquidity is king, and when you buy a property as an investment, like you have to put in too much money in.
You don't get as much gains as from all that you put in.
Not really. It's that you have to put too much money in upfront.
Yeah.
And other than like if you go to stock market or even cryptocurrency, like you can do like only like 1,000 NTD or 10,000, or you don't need to put like a 1 million right up front. But in the housing market, you have to. And if you want to sell it, it's not like you can do it right away, right next, like tomorrow or the next hour. But other than that, like liquidity is king. So if you want to buy a property, you have to like at least own it for a year or something. And in this time of Taiwan's weird situation, I don't believe it's a pretty safe investment.
I think Wen Tai actually agrees with you on that. So he's basically saying a lot of young people these days are spending 50%, 60% of their income just to pay a mortgage. So he strongly suggests young people not to do that, but use maybe 30%, 40% of the income to diversify their investment portfolio, which has better returns. And like you said, it's way more liquid. It's easier to sell a stock than to sell a house. So I think that's what he's suggesting. But he does believe that bubble might burst in the future. And what's your take on the rental and the property price going forward for the next 5 years?
Well, what I believe is that the bubble will only burst if, I don't know if I can say that, but but if someone attacked Taiwan, that this is the only
Scenario.
Yeah, only scenario that the bubble will burst. Other than that, I don't think so. The reason is that if we see it as a macro economy wise, Taiwanese people is pretty rich. Why? Because of semiconductors. So if we are as rich as we are in the future and continuingly to be richer, this will not burst.
Okay, well, I'll take your word for it. Fred, is owning a house something that you want to do one day?
Oh yeah, of course. I just wish I could have the foresight to buy a house near Sibeike 10 years ago.
But then if you look at it that way, it's pretty interesting because 10 years ago, if you buy NVIDIA, you'll be like probably 100 times richer.
Yeah.
There's so many things you could have done 10 years
Yeah.
ago and be super rich now.
Of course, if you buy in real estate, it's more like forcing you to put money or save money into something. In stock market, you probably won't have the discipline to like dollar average it every single day.
So one more question before we go. People in Taiwan are moving to the outskirts, what we call 蛋白区, further and further away from the heart of cities. So there is an argument that, if you're going to buy a house, if you're going to own a home that is not your dream house, what's the point of a home ownership? Wouldn't it be better if you can just rent closer to the city, closer to a better lifestyle? What's your take on that?
I will say that this is more popularized amongst the young people. But if we see it as a whole population, like young people is not that much. There aren't that much young people around Taiwan. So it's still a pretty minorized population. And if we look at the statistics, of course, like right now, or probably the last quarter, the housing market is starting to be cooler. It's putting down. But at Kaohsiung or a more cheaper areas, the volume of transaction is actually up. So in cheaper areas, even though the housing market is going down, the acquisition volume is up. So actually people are still buying and in cheaper places. So I will say that if they want to live in better areas or more convenient areas, this will be a huge problem. But most Taiwanese people still wants the house.
Would you encourage them to buy?
Well, if you were going to live in one, definitely. Because if you want to live in one, it's more like a psychology issue. Like if you own a home, you feel steady and you can probably do more stuff in the future. But if you're trying to do as an investment, then I think this is not a good idea.
Yeah, I know in London anyway, it's going to be a challenge, but if I've given up on ever having a home in central London, we'll have to see. So when it comes to the housing market for Taiwan, it is just going up and up and up. Do you have any predictions or where you see it going in the next 5 to 10 years?
So there are too much factors to influence the answer, because most of all is the policy of the government. As we can see from this year, because of the new policies for governments to attack the real estate prices, so the whole market of real estate is cooling down. If they continue to do so, which is a good thing in my point of view, then it will still go down slightly. It's not going to be majorly going to go crashing, because it's not like in Japan a few decades ago, there's a huge earthquake and people don't want to own homes. But it's government is trying to cool the whole market down as hard as possible, which is, I believe it's a good thing, but in the long term, it's still going to go up. But then only if Taiwan, as a country, is still making money, is still growing as economy-wise around the world. If we are still the best semiconductor contributor in the whole wide world, if we are still here, then we will probably become, probably Singapore or something like that, which real estate is not going to be cheap anytime soon. And I don't think it will ever be.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the Connected podcast. It's been such a pleasure to have your company.
Pleasure's all mine.
And thank you for joining us today. I'd like to know, though, is renting expensive in your country? Have you had any nightmare stories with landlords where you are from? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to check out our main show, Connected, on TaiwanPlus. You can find it on YouTube and the TaiwanPlus website. We're your hosts, Izzy Wiles
And Fred Shea, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.